Alright, what's up guys? So, Wrestling Colin has uploaded a video titled When Wrestling Turns Real, the Dirtbike Kid Incident. Yeah, I saw this in my recommendations and I was like, nah man, let me go ahead, let me check this out. Cause yeah, there's at times though where it's like, it's wrestling is a scary sport because I feel like now, yeah, I feel like, like wrestlers are a little bit more professional and stuff, but back then I felt like if this was like early 2000s or 90s, yeah, like wrestling, even, yeah, just before that time period, before anything after like 2004, like I feel like 2004 and like before that, yeah, that was wrestling was a little wild. I feel like 2005, 6, 7, that's when they kind of like started transitioning, into a little bit more of a professional sport and things. But yeah, it's like you wasn't hearing so many crazy stories then, and then yeah, it just seemed like before then and stuff, like maybe not 2004, like maybe 2002. I don't know, bro. I just feel like, yeah, there was just some crazy things happening in wrestling where I was like, don't know if that would happen today. But no, let's go ahead and get into this video. Make sure if you guys haven't, go subscribe to Wrestling Calling for more videos like this. And that being said,
professional wrestling is a physical performance art. It does come with risk, it is dangerous, but it's not a real fight. Unless, of course, it is. Sometimes the line between performance and reality can bend, blur, and disappear entirely, and a work can turn into a shoot in the blink of an eye. This is the story of one such match. A match that saw an obscure British wrestler receive a real-life beating by a Japanese legend in front of a crowd full of families and children. It's the story of the Dirtbike Kid and the Great Sasuke. The year is 1999, and Japanese independent promotion Michinoku...
What I tell you, I was like, anything before the years that I named off, I knew it was in that time frame.
Pro Wrestling is holding a masked wrestlers tournament called Fukumin World League. This would be their second installment of the Fukumin World League, with the inaugural event taking place in 1995. It's a tournament where participants from different promotions all compete wearing masks, and among them is a British performer called the Dirtbike Kid. Real name Jason Harrison, the Dirtbike Kid was a 26-year-old Englishman whose wrestling character was, as you probably already guessed, a dude wearing dirt bike gear. He'd worked various ECW events, sometimes under the name Shark Attack Kid, wrestling the likes of Taz and Mikey Whipwreck. He also promoted his own shows under a brand called the European Wrestling Association. These EWA events would run in front of crowds of a few hundred people, but they featured talent like Rob Van Dam, Sabu, and major name ECW wrestlers. In fact, it seems like the Dirtbike Kid was responsible for bringing a lot of that ECW talent to the UK for the first time, serving an audience hungry for the kind of hardcore wrestling that up until then, they'd only seen on tape. As an in-ring performer, by all accounts, the Dirtbike Kid was not exactly an exceptional wrestler, but thanks to his work as a promoter, he was able to work with some of the biggest names in ECW, award himself his own EWA Heavyweight Championship, and get invited to Japan for the 1999 Fukumin World League. Oh, and one more thing before we move on. The Dirtbike Kid does not normally wear a mask during his matches. This will become important later. In the opening rounds of the Fukumin World League tournament, the Dirtbike Kid has to wrestle and lose to the Great Sasuke, who also happens to be the owner of Michinoku Pro. Now, even if you're not particularly into Japanese wrestling, you might know the Great Sasuke from this image. It was taken after winning an event called the J Crown in 1996, where he won and unified 8 different title belts. Their match is taking place in a building called the Yabata Townsman Gymnasium. It's a 1,600 person venue that's a long way away from the Tokyo Dome or the Nippon Budokan in every conceivable way. Still, for the Dirtbike Kid, this is a serious opportunity. He's about to wrestle not only a world-famous performer near the height of his popularity, but the owner of the company. So it's fairly obvious to see how this match could mean big things for the young Englishman's future. And it would, just not in the way he probably expected. Dirtbike Kid makes his entrance, hits the ring, and immediately after he's introduced, flings off the outer mask he's wearing. Again, to be clear, this is a masked wrestler tournament. Now we should note here that under that first mask, he is wearing one of those Dirtbike half masks that cover your mouth and nose. The bell rings and immediately Dirtbike Kid is on offense. And when I say offense, I mean like he's getting paid by the move. He hits a dropkick, a senton bomb outside the ring, a falcon arrow, a hurricane hurricanrana off the top rope and 2 splashes from the top rope in less than 2 minutes. And really, it's not that exciting. All he's doing is chaining together one flashy spot after another with no real sense of pace or match psychology. In isolation and delivered with more gravitas, some of what he does would be legitimately entertaining. But he just rushes through everything and it quickly starts to feel like you're watching a stuntman, not a wrestler.
They all got out there, so I'm like, wait a second, this ain't WWE, there ain't no barricades. They all got up there like, nah, that's funny. I'm like, why y'all sitting so close, man?
Is a job Dirtbike Kid apparently did do before he went into wrestling. And once
that's
you know that, some of his
gym
weaknesses
floor?
as a wrestler.
I'm like, have you guys fallen on gym floor before? That mess ain't fun, bro. So like, that's shout out to him for taking that bump, because that to me is a bump. I've fallen on gym floor. I'll be running and fall on gym floor, and I'm like, I slipped and fell. That's some painful stuff, bruh.
Start to make a little more sense. Now, this whole time, Sasuke is trying to sell what's happening to him, but he's not really given much chance. After dodging that second top rope splash, the great Sasuke decides he's had enough, and the match switches gears completely. He gets up and starts hammering the Dirtbike Kid with various kicks to the chest. And initially, the Dirtbike Kid doesn't really react to them the way you might expect.
Yeah.
He staggers a little, but stays on his feet,
yeah.
not fully selling
you can tell those are some hard kicks. When they like brace it for the kick before it happens, he's trying to sell it, but he's in pain.
Impact of these kicks the way Sasuke clearly wanted him to. And this underselling or no selling is something a lot of people who watch the match point to when they're looking for reasons to justify what Sasuke does next. The real life owner of Michinoku Pro keeps kicking, and as he goes on, they get stiffer and stiffer and stiffer. While the Dirtbike Kid is covering himself, Sasuke kicks him hard over and over again in the back, chest, and face, even using the ropes for leverage. At this point, the crowd, which includes plenty of children by the way, seems visibly confused at what they're watching. After the Dirtbike Kid manages to get on all fours, Sasuke strolls over and puts him in a guillotine choke position. It takes less than a second for DBK to start screaming and frantically tapping out. The referee calls for the bell, but Sasuke maintains the hold for a few more seconds, which must have felt like minutes to DBK at this point. The Dirtbike Kid crumples to the floor and stays there. Sasuke kind of stalks around the ring like he doesn't want it to end and looks legitimately pissed off under the mask. Even though the match is over, Sasuke doesn't leave. He hangs around the ring almost as if he wants to keep shooting on Dirtbike Kid. Meanwhile, DBK is starting to get to his feet and clutching his neck. He extends his hand for a handshake, but instead Sasuke actually squares up like he wants to box, then just turns around and finally leaves the ring. It is a very jarring 2-minute and 30-second match. And honestly, watching this back, you can't help but feel a little bad for the Dirtbike Kid.
Yeah.
According to the Dirtbike Kid himself, he was taken to hospital right after the match and advised by doctors not to wrestle for a further 6 weeks to allow cartilage in his chest to heal. DBK said he sustained a separate rib injury a month prior to this as well. Even so, apparently he spent another week on tour with Michinoku Pro, during which time Sasuke never even spoke to him or offered an apology. So what happened? Why did the great Sasuke suddenly snap and start shooting on the Dirtbike Kid? Why did DBK take off his mask in a masked wrestler tournament?
That had to have been the reason. They probably beforehand told him like, hey, leave the mask on, and he just was all like, nah. He was all like, I'll just wear this mask off, and so yeah.
Why did he no-sell the owner of the company and a legend in his own country? Well, according to the Dirtbike Kid himself, it was all some kind of conspiracy against him. In an interview with WrestleZone.com from 20 years ago, he said this about the incident. Quote, "My first match on the tour was scheduled to be against Sasuke, and it wasn't until the guys were warming up in the ring before the show started to open that I began to smell a rat, and a pretty big one. Sasuke had come up to me and basically told me that our match was only going to go 5 minutes. Now, straight away, I wasn't happy, but I didn't show it. You see, none of this was agreed to when I signed my contract, and apparently I heard they didn't like me trying to negotiate with them. But hey, Michinoku or not, if the terms aren't right, I'm not effing going. I am not a wrestling prostitute." End quote. Now, Right away, this doesn't seem to make a great deal of sense. Why would specific match times be enshrined in his contract, and why wouldn't he just cooperate with Sasuke?
Yeah,
the
like,
Fukumen World League is not a single elimination.
I'm saying, like, if my thing is this, if they say that, oh, we're gonna be wrestling for like 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then if I come back the next day, they're like, hey, there's another match where, you know, it's gonna probably drag on for a little bit, so the 20 have been cut down to 5. I'm like, fam, that's less stuff that I'm putting my body through. We're only wrestling for 5 minutes. I'm not gonna have no issues with that. I think that's something though that people need to understand about like wrestling, is that, you know, besides your own pride, you gotta worry about like other people and, you know, what they want to overall doing things, because it's like you don't overall know what that man's going through. My thing is, they come up to me and they're all like, hey, we're only gonna be wrestling for 5 minutes instead of 20. I'm like, oh, okay, no, yeah, it's cool and stuff. I'm losing. I'm like, all right, cool, high five. We going on about our business and things. And so that's just something where it's like, you know, especially in another person's like place of business, you gotta have respect for them. I'm like, how do you think that will work if you got a wrestler like just up in the league, you got a wrestler in WWE thinking he gonna tell Vince McMahon what to do? That's what I'm saying. It's like, nah, bro, that's not happening. You ain't gonna have nobody going off of prime Vince McMahon that was like, yeah, 90s, wearing the black tank tops, flexing it. Yeah, you ain't going up to that Vince McMahon and telling him, oh, I'm gonna wrestle for however long I want to wrestle. You ain't gonna tell me what to do. I promise you're getting fired.
Tournament, and there would be plenty of match time left for Dirtbike Kid after his match with Sasuke. He goes on to say that the plan for the match was for Sasuke to be on the receiving end of the damage for the first few minutes of the match, then make a big comeback and win via submission, which is pretty much exactly what happened. It just turned out to be a real submission instead of a simulated one. And what about the mask? Why did he just take it off at the start of the match?
I bet that's the real reason.
In that same WrestleZone interview, he says, quote, well, I had apparently already pissed them off. Sorry for swearing so much, but it just annoys me because I refuse to wear the stupid mask they had made for me.
See?
Now, sorry, but the DBK isn't a masked wrestler, so why the F did they want me on a masked man tournament? I managed to compromise with them and say that I'd wear it to the ring only, and then rip it off where I would wear the usual biking face mask that I usually wear during my ring entrance. They didn't like it, I could tell, but agreed to it. End quote. So in other words, the Dirtbike Kid claims this whole mask removal thing was cleared by management before the match started. If that's true, then maybe there was a miscommunication with Sasuke specifically about the situation. Or maybe taking off the mask had nothing to do with anything, and Sasuke was just furious that Dirtbike Kid was no-selling his kicks and making him look bad. In the same interview, he also talks about some of the other British wrestlers talking negatively about him, and maybe even trying to create a problem with Sasuke on the tour, although he never really elaborates on that. And as the old cliche
but
goes,
still, I just think that it has a lot to do with, like, you try to get into another man's place of business and tell him what you're going to do, and you're, oh, I'm gonna wear the mask that I want to wear. You have to understand that it's like, because that's like going into a person's house, right? And they tell you to take your shoes off before you walk in, and then you're like, no, my shoes are clean. Well, I gotta take my shoes off. These are the brand new Jordans. I ain't gotta take off nothing. No, I'm gonna wear. How you think that's gonna work? All right, you're in another person's house telling them what you're going to do. That's not going to happen. So I think what a lot with this has to do was that he went into this man's place of business thinking he had some like, oh, because he was like cool with ECW and he made a name for himself and all these other things. He's thinking, oh, I got clout, I got pull, I can do this, say this and all this, and they going to have to just respect it. Nah, bro, my thing is this. And that's probably why you've seen where a lot of like big name wrestlers in WWE, like John Cena for an example. And I feel like that, you know, just using somebody like him for an example, he comes off as a guy where it's like if he were to go to another wrestling league or something, he wouldn't be like, oh no, I'm still gonna do this, I'm still gonna do that. I'm like, no, you're in another person's place of business. You're gonna get fired and you're not gonna have a job. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, nah, bro, you can't. I'm just gonna say you cannot go into another person's place of business and they think you got some control or power there. It's not gonna work.
There are two sides to every story. Whenever the Dirtbike Kid incident gets brought up on a forum or a Twitter post or a Reddit thread, a lot of people seem to almost celebrate what happened to the guy. Like the great Sasuke is some sort of pro wrestling anti-hero for shooting on a man who no-sold for him and acted like a jerk. And I'm not a wrestler, nor do I work in the wrestling industry, but hurting another performer in the ring does seem like a pretty big abuse of trust. It also has to be said that Sasuke is far from a Boy Scout outside of this incident. In 2009, he was arrested for allegedly assaulting a man who inadvertently took a photo of him with his phone. So did the Dirtbike Kid's relationship with Sasuke get sabotaged by other wrestlers before they even met in the ring? Was Sasuke mad at DBK for ripping off his mask during his masked wrestler tournament? Or did he just snap when the kid from London wasn't cooperating in the ring? At the end of the day, only the great Sasuke really knows for sure.
That's crazy, though. Yeah, there are probably more stories like that where it's like, I know there's more stories like that where it's like wrestlers, they don't get along with somebody, and then, yeah, then the other wrestler ends up having to find out the hard way, and it's messed up that it's like that, but that's sometimes, all I'm gonna say is sometimes that is like a work, environment and things, depending on, like, if it's a contact sport, like football, basketball, wrestling, soccer, yeah, you're gonna have that one person where it's like they do some stuff, and it's like, fam, you gotta remember, these are your coworkers, these are people that you gotta be a little bit more respectful towards them and stuff, so it's like, chill out, all right, but that's just talking on the Sasuke guy. But then on the other hand, it's like, yeah, the Dirtbike Kid guy, it's like, nah, man, if you're gonna be in another person's place of business, that ain't no different than, it's like, it'll be a situation like, let's say if it's a football game, and then there's like that golden rule where it's like, you don't stand on the opposite team's emblem in the middle of the their logo in the middle of the field and start dancing and doing some stuff on it, because yeah, then that's gonna make the other team upset, and they're gonna take that as disrespect. You don't want that on your head. So yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like, you're gonna be in another person's place of business, show respect. That's why you ain't gonna see nobody like Russell Wilson doing no stuff like that. So I'm saying, it's like, yeah, it's one of the things you just gotta show respect, But anyways, that was a good video though. Make sure if you guys haven't, go subscribe to Wrestling Call-In for more videos like this. Like, subscribe to me too, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you guys for watching, and peace.